We're back.
We've done it again.
So guess what? You would have, our viewers may have thought that I wanted to take a break to go refill my wine glass, but really my computer died. Yeah.
You know, that's
So here's
what happens when we do this at the end of the day and our computer's tired. Maybe we're a little tired.
So anyway, we're back for Ornament Finishing Part 2. Let's do a quick toast. Where's your beer? Yes. Clink. Here. All right. We're back. We know we did a quick review. We know that we got through embroidery on the commonly asked questions and the kind of pointers on ornaments. So we're going to finish strong, right, with the life cycle. Oh my goodness. Life cycle of an ornament when it's turned in for finishing.
It kind of sounds like a scary, like, science lesson from high school.
I'm picturing like the life cycle of a moth. Like, doesn't Joanna have a canvas? The life cycle of a moth. The life cycle of a canvas. I know it's a goofy title, but I think it's sort of the best way to explain what happens to a piece when.
But lifestyle sounded better, so.
Lifestyles of the hokey technological people here that are just barely making it. But no, life cycle of a finishing ornament. Okay, so when a piece arrives at our door, whether it's via mail or it's via you bringing it into the shop, I don't know about you, but we have a collective bin, like a filing bin that we file them all in, and they sit there. So we these days are getting, I don't know, 1284. It feels like pieces.
I still can't believe how much we're still getting now. Like usually at this time of year in most normal years, like you barely see any finishing, but everyone's still home stitching their stress away and it's all good stuff. But yeah,
it's amazing, but it's like, so much. So anyway, the point is, so for us, things come in a day. So we've gone through like what we talked to you about, the things that you ask. We put them on a piece of paper, we write up all the goody information, and we put it in a filing bin. I don't know about you, but my filing bin sits there until.
Let's back up 1 second. Yeah. Because I think this is really important. When someone carries it into us, they obviously know that it's there. And we talked about this earlier. The other kind of first priority for my team members and I is when the mail or the UPS or whoever arrives with packages is the first thing. We don't always get to like marking in our inventory every day, but we go through the packages every day. And the second we see a package that we know is finishing, because you can tell by the label, we open it up and we call or email that person to tell them that their babies have arrived. Because we realize that it's very stressful for someone to put something in the mail that they've spent hours and hours and hours of their life creating. Yeah. It's hard to put it in the mail. So
it's not just but sometimes it's a stocking or a pillow that's giant and they work really hard on it. And the stitches, it's like their life's masterpiece, So yes, absolutely. Yes.
So that happens and then it gets written up and then it goes back to the back room of bins and organization. Yeah.
So I don't know about you, but we have sort of a collective finishing bin. So everything that comes in a day, it all sits in this bin. And then we, myself and or our finishing manager go through the bin, kind of individual piece by piece. And so going through the bin typically means like, okay, stocking comes out, pillow comes out. We have a separate spot that belts go in my world, but so we categorize it by
type of finishing.
Type. Usually in my brain too, I'm also thinking finisher because we've got probably a dozen now.
Right.
I haven't counted, but people that finishing go to parse out to.
Bless them all.
So hopefully, and I'm not trying to expose an underbelly that, I used to work for a boss that used to say, don't tell people how sausage is made, because nobody wants to know. But I think the point is that I want people to understand that this is quite a process, right? And so anyway, so we kind of go through, we put them where they need to be. But so the life cycle of an ornament, so the ornament goes into the ornament stack. And as we talked about earlier, not all ornaments are created equal. There's the rounds, there's the squares, there's the shapes, there's the gussets, there's 3D, there's the toppers. And I'm not going to speak for you, but you have a true blessing in that you have a local finisher who does majority of your ornaments, would you say?
I
Or,
would say, actually, no, of ornaments, she actually does very little of our ornaments.
okay.
My ornaments, most of them get mailed away to other finishers, some that are local-ish, but still mail worthy, and others that are farther away.
For the kids.
Yeah, so but my finishing manager, I'm so lucky to have her. She has been here for 20 years, long before I was even a part of the shop, and she knows so much. And she's the one who kind of does most of that sorting. I handle some of the other pieces, but she does most of that sorting. And some of it is sorted on the type of thing it is and the type of finish it is. But some of it's also that, okay, finisher A already has 2 boxes. Finisher B only has 1 box and she's just about done with it. So it's a juggling act of who isn't overloaded right now that we can kind of swap unfinished with finished. So we try not to have too much at any one person's plate at one time.
Yes, and I know that this is what you were getting at, but I just want to kind of peel that back a little bit even more. So finisher B, who's almost done with her box, is also really good at X, Y, and Z finish. And so I can put those things in her pile. And ooh, can she do that kind of finish? I think so, but I might need to give her a quick call to make sure that that's like in her wheelhouse, because I know it would get finished faster if she did that. But ooh, I know that this person really does that better. So there's a real mental kind of negotiation. Now we should point out that there's a few of our colleagues who are like wholly blessed with in-house finishing. Talked about that very, very briefly. And of our colleagues who own brick and mortars, we know that at least 2 have people who have their little elves in the back room that just sit and do finishing. And I would die. I would dream of that.
Right. Well, you have to not only have the local talent to be able to do that, but you've got to have the real estate to be able to do that.
Fair.
You know, yeah. Like one of my bucket list items is to go to Barbara's in Sioux Falls.
Barbara's Needlepoint in Is it South Dakota, right? Can we?
Yeah. That was before like 2020 happened. I was very much going to go, like in my mind, I was going to her retreat. Like that is on my bucket list. And one of the things that fascinates me about her shop is my understanding is, I haven't had the joy of being there, and I know many of our listeners probably have, but they literally have an open setup where they can watch their finishers finishing things.
I've heard that. That sounds awesome. And don't they have names? Are they the Barbettes or the I don't know.
Something like that.
Even cuter. I want to visit the Barbette.
So I know like hers, you can see, and I believe Rittenhouse has in-house finishers. I don't know if you can actively see them. Again, I'm talking to things I probably shouldn't be talking about because I don't know what I'm talking about, but rumor has it that they have some in-shop finishers too. But I would say the majority of the shops are like you and I, that we don't have the luxury of having anyone on site that does it.
And we have, when I say an in-house finisher, so I have some, and you too, when we say in-house, what I mean by that term is that
literally under this very roof I'm in.
And what I mean when I say like our I guess what I should say, and I've never really thought about this before, is a staff finisher. So like I have someone who only works for me, who lives nearby, who I know I rely on her to come in, get my finishing. I can call her and say, hey, I have something I need to move to the top of the line. You know, there's this issue, blah, blah, blah. So other than that, I contract with, like you do, finishers who work for a lot of other shops. And, you know, it's kind of a weird industry because a lot of us are using a lot of the same people. And a lot of us kind of want to like keep our little people because, you know,
and hard to find good people that do the quality work.
Hard to find people that do it well. So it's kind of this very weird, like, I can't just call like one of my pals, like I could call anybody at any other shop and be like, hey, I need a couple of skeins of blah, blah, blah. And they'd be like, sure, I'll send it over. But I don't usually just pick up the phone and be like, hey, who are you using for finishing? Would they take some of mine? Because they're like going to be like, oh, as friendly as I want to be with you, I don't want to give up my space with this finisher that I've found that I've been working with. So it's a very, very tough piece of the business, right?
Yeah.
Again, I'm not trying to go down the rabbit hole, but so the point is, back to, we parse it out, we put it in the piles. And I also have, and I'm sure you do too, kind of regular schedules with some of my finishers. So I've got people who come, I've got one who comes every other Sunday right now because she doesn't want to be interacting with
the public.
I've got one who comes every Thursday. I've got one who comes, she emails me and says, okay, I'm through, I'm going to come, but it's usually on Fridays. It's usually every third Friday. So I kind of have ideas of how that's going to go down too. And so then I prepare for them. But a lot of it is me preparing a shipping box and getting those, determining the insurance on the box and getting those prepared. And it's not just saying, here's the canvas, bloop, pop it in the box either.
Well, and the big part of what we do first, and you and I haven't talked about this before, but 99% of the embroidery, and we were talking about embroidery, I just got to throw one other thing in there, is people always ask me about embroidery. Well, why would I do that? And I jokingly say it, but I'm kind of serious. I have everything I do embroidered because I figure that way my kids will not sell it at a garage sale because they'll have known that I made it. So that's my insurance, that it doesn't look like it just came from the cute little boutique down the street, that it was handmade. But all of that embroidery is done for us anyways. I've got a couple people that do embroidery for us, but on the most part, my finishing manager pulls all the fabric. If a customer's provided it, great. If they haven't, we pull all the fabric. And the very first step is then she writes up all the embroidery, and the embroidery gets dropped off at this lady's house. And then we sit and we wait until she's done with that embroidery. So that's like, usually, it's best case scenario about 2 weeks between the piece walking in the door and when the embroidery's done.
I was going to say 2 to 3 weeks. In fact, I just had someone the other day say, oh, would you be able to push this through for me? And I was like, okay. So I looked at the type and I thought, who can I send this to? And I might be able to. And then it had embroidery. And I was like, because that adds 2 weeks. And let's keep in mind, we are, I don't have my watch on, I always do, but December 1st. And 2 weeks is already December 15th. And what, so sure, I can push it through because if it's a round ornament, I've got somebody that can bust those out. Like we were talking earlier, it's kind of a little more of a, anyway. Embroidery is beautiful and it's a great idea, but it just adds a layer is all.
Right. So most of my customers have things embroidered, I would say. More do than don't. So we've got a great gal who does it and she'll do a lot of special things and whatever. But so that's the first step. And it's a delivery, it's a pickup, and it's the work involved while it's there. And just like you were alluding to earlier, everything is done in batches. It's not like your one piece is dropped off over there. We wait until there's about 20 things to be dropped off, or 40 things, or whatever her magic number is, gets dropped off, and then it gets picked up, and then it's parceled out to wherever it's going to get finished.
Right. And, I don't know that we've mentioned this, but finishing is expensive. And when I say expensive, it's because I'm a farm girl and I'm like, wait, what? How much, and it's expensive. And I will tell you, and you're more of a numbers girl than I am, but believe it or not, I'm ditzy and I drink wine and I'm, a visual person, but I also look at the bottom line, and I'm not just going to send one piece of finishing to the finisher because I have to pay somebody hourly who's working to process all of that and then take all that stuff to the finisher too. And so I know that it's not worth my time. I'm not making any money really on
and even the money making aside, it's just not an efficient way to get things done. And things already, as you said, this is an expensive hobby, but it's also, we all know these finishers are really backed up. So the more efficient we can make this process, the more we can help them to shrink that 12 weeks down to 8 weeks or whatever phase we're in right now. Yes. So efficiency is the name of the game.
So you made a really good point about embroidery that I forgot about. But so it comes in, hits the back room, we're ready to process it, we pull it all out, we say, who does it need to go to? And then there's a really kind of off chance that I'm like, oh, I really want to send this to this person, but they just picked up. So, I mean, the point is that unfortunately, some of that time frame that we give you for finishing might be it's just practicing and the getting in the back and forth and in the back and forth in the embroidery and the back and forth and the mail and the back and forthing. So so you've mentioned we ship in increments. Finishers also finish in increments or in batches, as you explained. I think that's a great way to put it. And so we have some finishers who are kind of jack of all trades. We mentioned earlier. They maybe this week is their round week, and so they're getting out the rounds. They're just cranking those rounds. They've cut all their foam pieces or whatever they use in the middle. They're cranking them all out, and then next week I send them a package that includes a bunch of stuff, which includes some rounds, and they're like, "Well, I just did my rounds last week, so I'm not doing those for 2 more weeks."
This week's pillow week, so
yeah, pillow week, or this week's open top stocking, or So I think it's important to mention that too. And people say, well, why don't they work chronologically? Well, in theory, they do. So they're going to do whatever they get, but it wouldn't, again, to your point, it wouldn't be efficient to do one round ornament and then do one shaped ornament and then do a pillow, because you're in your ornament process, right? And finishing space, right? So you've got all your whatever materials you need to do ornaments on that table on that day. And anyway, so they get out to everybody and then they come back, right?
Well, and let's throw one thing out there. I would say that most of these finishers do work on the whole chronologically, but if your type of open sock is going to finisher A, well, finisher B might be faster. So you could have turned 2 things in at the same time and get something back 3 or 4 weeks sooner, because just of how the schedules evolve, because it's not just one person doing everything all the time. So
that's right. And yes, I've had a question recently, like my friend got her ornament back sooner. Well, at this time of year, I'm parsing out to as many finishers as possible to hope that on the whole, they all come back at the same time and under deadline.
Right.
And as you just pointed out, finisher A might be in her finishing shaped ornaments this week, where finisher B might be in her finishing next week. And, it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah. So all those boxes come back. And then our jobs begin again. So then our jobs begin again. So, and it is like Christmas. I mean, it is so fun. I mean, that's kind of how my unboxing parties began, because I would have so much fun opening those boxes, and I was here by myself. I'm like, well, let me share this with everyone, because I don't have anyone to share it with back in March or April. So yeah, it's super. So the opening the box is really fun, but then there's a quality control issue. We need to make. I was just about to say.
So it's so fun until you open it up and you're like,
I asked that finisher to put red cording on this, and she put blue, and and sometimes, to be honest, it doesn't matter. Sometimes you can just work around it and call the customer and say, hey, can you live with blue? Because it's here. We can always get it fixed, but that takes time. And it doesn't happen very often, but they're cranking out a lot of stuff. So the fact that, every now and then we have one piece that was an oopsie, it doesn't surprise me, because, no one's perfect. This is all handmade, hand done, human error involved, not very often, thankfully, but it can all be fixed. So nothing's irreparable. So
about you, we didn't talk about this, but I think at the height, so my one of my deadlines was August 1st, one of them was September 1st. Those were big deadlines. And I think at the end of August, I counted, and I had over 700 pieces of finishing under I stopped counting at 700 because it started to make me sick. And so the point is, 700 pieces of finishing under management at let's just give it a 1% margin of error, is still something. You know what I mean? Right. It's going to happen, and this is human work and it's human error. And so I try to be super patient about it, but there's nothing that's much more of a bummer than when I open it, I'm like,
Well, you know what's more of a bummer? Here's what's more of a bummer, is when we as the quality checkers don't see it because we're too busy, and the customer finds it, which, like I said, at worst case scenario, like it gets past us, everything can be fixed. Like I've never had anything happen that you couldn't make better. Worst case scenario, I think last year I got something back with the wrong embroidery on like December 23rd. And I was already having a fit because that's normally not what we were doing. But I think the person had turned it in after the deadline and was trying to squeak it in for them, doing them a favor, and we rushed it. And we all know what happens when you rush things.
More six.
So I called her and I said, let's do this. Come and pick it up so you can give it to the person and bring it back at when it's time to take the tree down and we'll get it fixed. And we did. And that was all good. And she was thrilled to have it early because she wasn't expecting it. So everything's fixable. So even if there is an error, it's fixable.
I'll just say, speaking of deadlines, I feel like I'm in a relatively lucky position because my finishers on the whole have not been hit by illness, inability to do their work and for whatever reason. But there are a lot of shops out there who are dealing with finishers who have been hit by illness, who have been hit by supply chain, so they haven't gotten what they needed to do the product, whatever. And so somebody said to me the other day, I always take a picture of what I turn in. So then if it doesn't come back, on the holiday or on the birthday or whatever, I can say, look what I made for you and you're going to get it soon. And I thought that was such a sweet, it actually like made me feel so happy that I didn't feel so much pressure.
Right.
I understood that this is that we're doing the best we can to get this back. But the point is you've worked really hard on this. And you're excited to give it. We're excited to get it back to you, but it's just sometimes it's out of our control. So take a picture of the beautiful pillow and be like, aren't you so excited to get this? Print the picture out, wrap it up in a box. You know what I mean? Because, at the end of the day, this is needlepoint and we take it very seriously, but it is a luxury that we all have, that we can do it and gift it. And we do the best we can. But sometimes it doesn't always work out. And sometimes, I'm not going to say vulgar words, but it happens,
Right. Well, and so I think you're right. I mean, we're both very fortunate. We've had numerous conversations that our finishing seems like it will all hit the deadline, but this is the real world and bad things happen occasionally. So everyone needs to be
podcast. So
I think Sue Parsons posted the other day in Needlepoint Nation, and she owns West Coast Finishing. And she did a post the other day about, everyone needs to be really nice to the shops, which was really sweet of her to go out there because she's basically a wholesale finisher for the most part, I believe. And she had said she'd heard how people were screaming at the shop owners. I don't think I've been in that position yet, but I suppose anything's possible. But she was just trying to say, let's relax, people. This is just needlepoint. There's a lot more important things going on in the world than you not getting your needlepoint back in time to gift it at Christmas, even if you were promised it. So we're all doing the best we can. And it's a really big process. I think that's, we've talked through everything. The only thing I think we missed, which I'll just throw in here, is the other side is after we quality check is we have to enter all the pricing so that when people come to pick up their thing, they know what they're paying. And, that's a menu option, but it's still like something we have to take care of, the bookkeeping number side of it. But
because we do the best we can to assume pricing but again, different finishers, different shipping. And again, it's all kind of in this collective what we try to do as business owners to kind of take the hit on little thing, but at the same time, if there's some kind of extraordinary thing that happens or we do an extra above and beyond thing, that there is sometimes a little bit of an extra charge. And I always hate to do that, but if I didn't pass it on, I would lose money. And
well, then you wouldn't be in business. And then we'd all be up a creek. So we're all trying to stay alive here. So it's good. Yeah. So from stem to stern, it's a big process. It's a big part of our time. It's probably, as Megan's alluded to, not our favorite part of running our businesses, but it's a very necessary part. And we are happy to provide the service. And I guess what we were just trying to point along here is not only how to communicate what you want with your finishing, whether it's, gusseted or Oreo or whatever you want to call it, as long as you know the term and you can communicate well, you'll get back what you want. So, and a little patience these days goes a long ways. I know both of us had finishing dates roughly for most things in August this year. We have not, you and I have not talked about this, Megan, but my gut is that maybe it's going to be sometime in July this year. Because I don't think the world's going to open up and people are still going to be home stitching more than ever. And it's a beautiful thing to pass the time, but you know, that date might just move up this year. And, you know, I've been able to squeak out a few things that we're turning after the deadline in time. We're doing the best we can for everybody. I know you are as well. But that guarantee date, that's kind of a scary thing to set for these finishers. They're saying no matter what happens, we'll get all this stuff done for you, but they don't really know what that number is going to be. It's like gambling. It's a little Russian roulette almost.
It is. And then, you know, I'll just add too that on the behalf of the finishers, you know, we get the question of, well, can I pay a rush fee? Can I pay to have mine move to the top of the list? And my gut is usually no. I'll be honest. Like I usually, no.
I'll give you my answer to that, but go ahead.
But you've told me your answer to that. And I have held, I think that it was your answer, which was, sure, I will ask the finisher if they would accept a rush fee because that means they're working overtime. They're taking on extra overtime. They're taking on, so right now they're working sometimes morning until night, through the night, whatever. And so what I'm asking them to do is take on something extra that I haven't already discussed with them, which is part of our agreement. And so therefore they have to carve out even just a teensy bit more time. And so therefore, will you accept a little extra money to work that extra 2 hours that it takes to finish an ornament? And that's up to them. And I'm willing to ask. I'm not willing to force it. I feel like we all, you know, need to be real and need to be fair. And so I think that.
And I would say to my finishers, what this means is that rush fee, none of it goes in the store's pocket. It all 100% goes to the finisher. And it is to make up for the fact that they're willing to give up 3 hours of sleep for it. You know, it's not to put, like, Megan's ornament isn't now going behind Melissa's ornament. It's just that Susie Sunshine is staying up until 4 a.m. to finish those extra pieces rather than getting that extra sleep. And that the rush fee is usually it's not insubstantial. And I really don't even offer it very often. It's usually under kind of extreme circumstances. So
for sure. But it gets asked, and that's worth pointing out. So that's pointing it out. So with that, I hope that you know, thanks for sticking with us. I hope you rejoined this second session, and I'm sorry for the technical difficulties. It is 2020. I'm going to blame it on that because it's an inanimate object, if you will, and no one's getting a real blame. But anyway, so it's 2020. We were crazy. We tried to do the best we can with technology, but, you know, we're all just barely making it some way. So thanks for sticking with us on this second session. Okay. I hope that if you have, because maybe if they subscribe, they would have gotten 2 notifications this week.
You never know. And maybe if they fell into part 2, I'll say, I think part 1 was a lot more interesting for most people. So if you just got caught us on part 2, make sure you go back to part 1 because it was a lot more fun. This was a little dry and boring.
Good point. It was actually a lot more informative as well. So thanks for sticking with us, you all. We love you and we appreciate you. And we hope that you have learned something during this week's edition. And I think
like always have your computer charger available.
Always have your computer charged, and when all else fails, have a drink and just relax and keep on needle pointing, right?
Yeah, go stitch.
Go stitch. Go stitch.
Go stitch. Okay, you have a good night. Talk to you soon.
Okay.